All right. So after I would say brief but long flirtation with a one Jim Harbaugh, the Vikings appear to have settled on Kevin O'Connell as the next head coach of the Minnesota Vikings. He is 36 years old. He has been a player in the league. He's been a coach in the league since 2015, and here he is now. So he did work with Kirk Cousins back in 2017 as his quarterback coach back in Washington, the now Commanders, and he was part of Quasey's group in 2016 on Special Projects, so he has a little bit of a Quasey connection as well. Um, he didn't become an offensive coordinator until 2019. Um, his rankings weren't the best until basically this past season, but he worked with Washington as one of them in 2019, the Jared Goff Rams in 2020, and now Matthew Stafford, and obviously they're in the Super Bowl. So, points per game, obviously seventh this year was his highest, 32nd though in 2019. I think preferably they like to pass the ball as opposed to run the ball, which I think is going to be a welcome change. It is the same system, different philosophy. Those are two different things. Some people get that a little bit confused sometimes, but it's the same wide zone system that he will be bringing in. However, it's going to be at the forefront now. So instead of, oh, it's Mike Zimmer's defense, it's going to be ball control, keep my defense off the field, keep it like this, just run it, run it, run it. It's not going to be that anymore. It's going to be, well, we want to score, this is how this is, we want points. And the defense is going to have to deal with that. So I think philosophy is shifting, not the scheme on offense. And he did help develop LA's game plans and design plays for Sean McVay and the Rams. And part of his whole job was just basically making the Rams offense execute at high levels. So he was essentially McVay's right hand man. And that kind of showed up because last year he blocked him from being an offensive coordinator from Brandon Staley, who wanted to steal him. Now that's important because that would have been a lateral move. And I think normal logic would say, like, well, why would you not block a lateral move? And it's because he didn't before with Matt LeFluer. Matt LeFluer, he said it needed to grow away from him, so he didn't block him so he could go be the offensive coordinator in Tennessee before he got the head coaching job up in Green Bay. So by blocking Kevin O'Connell, he essentially admitted, oh, I need this guy. This is my guy. Do not touch it. This is my dude. And so I'm really not worried about him never calling plays because if basically I think the idea is he may think he has a higher value than a Matt LeFleur, and we're obviously seeing what he's doing up with Green Bay. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers helps, but nonetheless, he's done a really good job up there. So, is what it is. And I do think Kevin O'Connell brings in a full rebuild, so to speak. Now, I honestly think that sounds a lot worse than it really is because this team is actually still very young, and like when we're talking about the offense is already built for this system. It just needs someone to come in and teach it better, basically. And I think O'Connell can do that. So when we look at it, Kirk Cousins, Brian O'Neill, Adam Thielen, and Dalvin Cook are the only offensive starters not on a rookie contract. So that's important, especially since it's running the same system. So I think when we're talking full rebuild, it's really like, oh, we're talking about getting rid of Kirk, maybe. Probably, yeah, we're talking about getting rid of Kirk. Adam Thielen probably is in that mix. And like Harrison Smith and Eric Kendricks not re-signing Barr. I think it's questionable whether or not Hunter will be in there. But for the most part, that's kind of it. Like, I think full rebuild sounds a lot scarier than it really is, because for the most part, it's like, get rid of your older quarterback, get rid of this older receiver in Adam Thielen that hasn't been healthy very often the last 2 years. and just don't re-sign aging people on defense and get rid of aging defensive players. So that's kind of it. I do actually like Kevin O'Connell. Like, I do know there will be people bummed out about Jim Harbaugh. I was on the Harbaugh train as well. But before Harbaugh, O'Connell was my number one guy with a bullet, because I kind of thought, well, he's going to come in, kind of basically just teach the system right, and it's still kind of intact. You don't need to rebuild the whole offensive side of the football, and that's it. Because the defensive side needs to be revamped regardless of who they get. So if they want to switch to a 3-4 by getting like a Vic Fangio or a Martindale or, something like that, I'm not against it. And it's mostly because I don't think most of those players are going to be back. So I think dishing off a lot of those guys for draft picks and going heavy defense in the draft is probably the way to go as of right now. We'll see how the rest of the offseason unfolds. But I would like to know your guys' comments down below. Like and subscribe. Super helpful. And until next time, I bid you all adieu.